let's start off with, give me a description of the workshop itself. So it's the title of the workshop, and then what is actually going to be happening inside your workshop.
Sure. So our presentation is how our food moves water around the planet. And we work for an organization, Grace Communications Foundation, that is trying to achieve a sustainable food system in the United States, working toward a sustainable food system. And part of achieving that is helping people understand how much water it takes to make food. And out of that came the Water Footprint Project. And that's what Kai and I work on. And so we have materials and tools that help people understand how much water it takes to make all of their food. And it's quite a bit, especially for livestock, because they eat so many crops versus us eating the crops directly. And so we have a presentation put together that explains to people what water shortages are, what water footprints are, and how especially teachers can understand the information for themselves and then turn around and help students understand not only what a water footprint is, but what their personal water footprint is. So their personal water footprint is made up of the water it takes just throughout their day, water from a tap to brush their teeth or take a shower, etc. But also the virtual water that it takes to make their food, their consumer products like their gadgets, their clothing, their whatever, everything in their life basically. And also the services they use like electricity and gasoline. And so we have a calculator that puts all of that together and will give a personal daily water footprint. So our goal is to teach the teachers so that they understand it, because they typically don't get to teach much more than the water cycle and maybe some water conservation. And we want them to go further and then help their students understand what that means for them in an effort to get them to be basically better global citizens.
So what grade level do you think this presentation is aimed towards?
Hi, do you want to take that?
Sure. So the great thing about all of our educational content is really it's K through 16. So even undergrads use it. But we have two sets of lesson plans. We have middle school lesson plans and high school lesson plans. So I would say in that age range between 6th and 12th grade, it's really, finely tuned to that. But the thing is, it really does have applicability for all ages. And with a calculator, for instance, it's a great hook to draw people in, whether it's 8 or 80. And teachers really find it engaging, not only for the kids, but for themselves. So it's really, we have a lot of resources that I think will be interesting for those who participate.
So let's talk a little bit more about that calculator. So how did it come together? Did you guys build it yourselves? What factors did you guys decide to choose to actually make that equation happen?
Yeah, we actually built it ourselves, and it was a lot of research. We have some really good bedtime reading if you have insomnia. We have a methodology that's about 35 pages long that shows all of the sources that we used and the data and the equations for how we put it all together. And so somebody could actually take that and try to figure it out themselves, but our calculator, our tool actually does that for them. So they don't have to. We suffer, so you don't have to. But it's using the latest research, and that was tricky because some research like direct water use is studied at a personal level. So somebody did a survey of households and then they put out a study that said this is average daily water use for the United States, or I think it was North America. So I think they included maybe Toronto or something in there. And then the rest of it was maybe it's at an international level, maybe it's at a national level, maybe it's somebody did a study of, this one location here in this one place, and we're able to generalize it. So it was a really interesting exercise in how much data we don't collect about water and data management, and trying to normalize data sets so that they are meaningful. And as a result, what we tell people is this is not an accurate portrayal of or accounting of how much water you use every day. It is a way to examine your own behaviors that presents average approximate use for each behavior, so you can get a sense of how much you're using and how you can do better. You want to add anything to that? Am I missing?
No, it really, what it does is essentially the calculator walks you through a typical day. So you see all these decision points along the way about, if, when you take a shower, or flush the toilet, or when you eat, or when you buy things, or when you recycle, all these things throughout the day, these decisions have a water footprint associated with them. And like Robin said, even though it's not, precise accounting, it still gives you a good sense, a snapshot of how much water it is that you use every day. And it's a lot of water. We won't let it slip how much it is, but if you take the calculator, come to see the presentation, you'll find out. One other thing to add is our most recent, we have two recent tools we put out and launched just this year. The Water Footprint of Food Guide, that's has more than 100 foods and beverages and the water footprints associated with that, plus some explanation detail around that. And then also the Water Footprint of Food quiz that just gives you a short, fun, interactive way to figure out how much water and food are connected, because water is essential to food production and agriculture and that sort of thing. So those two things are quite new, and it's something else we'll explore.
And also something that we always like to remind people, especially have teachers remind their students, is you're never going to have a water footprint of zero. You can never get to zero. In fact, you really can't get, well, I will let people figure out how they could achieve a low score and what that would involve. But it takes water to run our lives.
Right.
We can't exist without it, and we certainly can't live our modern lives without it, because almost everything that we use throughout the day has some sort of a water footprint to it. I can't think of one component or item. Like, I know that the beauty industry is trying to create waterless beauty products, but then there's water in the things that are what it's packaged in, and there's water in the transportation or involved with the transportation. So there's water in everything we do in our lives, and so you're never going to get to zero. And so we don't want people to feel that guilt or pressure. It's really an exercise in looking at where you are now and how you could make some better choices that would lighten the burden.
So this is specifically designed for STEM teachers. This lecture for us is going to be designed for STEM teachers. So the question I have for you guys is, how can we use this in the classroom? How will they use this in their classroom? What kind of outcomes do you expect a teacher to get from taking this lecture, taking this workshop, and how will they be able to use it in their everyday life?
Well, so we have standards aligned
Right.
lesson plans on our site. And in the workshop, we actually go through one of the exercises in the lesson plan. And it's about the water footprint of different food items. And so what we do is we go through, I think I said this already, we go through what is water scarcity? How is it affecting us globally? What's causing it? And then we look at water footprints as a way of, it's like an accounting of how much water it takes. And so what we want teachers to get out of it is understanding water conservation is, and telling kids, turn off the tap when you brush your teeth. That's great, but typically those programs are only pushed during times of crisis. And if people start understanding and making that connection that it takes so much water, and that water isn't necessarily coming from down the street. We get a lot of our food from California, which is really struggling right now. California and Arizona, they're having to make really difficult decisions about who is getting water, and it's driving up the price of food. It's causing problems with residential water use, with manufacturing. And so if you're making decisions here that started with water use there, you're affecting, nationally or maybe even globally how those resources get used. And we waste so much food. So we really want teachers to grasp this and then help their students be able to turn it around to help their students understand it. And that's what we want them to get out of this workshop. This is something that affects all of us. It's not just students. It's not just people in California or in dry countries. It's all of us. I mean, we had drought declared in parts of New York and New Jersey this past summer. And that starts to impact agriculture locally. So droughts can happen anywhere. And so what we're hoping is that people understand that they can lighten their load now, so that if it ever comes to the point where they have to really significantly reduce because of an extended drought, that it's not such a big lift. They're already attuned to the idea of using less. And kids are a great way to get that messaging out, and teachers are the messengers. So this is what we want. We want teachers to take this message to students. And this stuff is all out for free. It's all downloadable, and it's all there for people to use, for teachers to use. And we're happy to do this. I mean, we're both, I feel like we're proselytizing half the time about use less water, don't waste food. So that's my soapbox sermon about what we want teachers to do for us, basically.
Right. And the thing, like Robin was saying, the things that we do in our lives have impacts beyond our lives. And so that goes to, human to human relationships, but also our relationship to food production, energy production, manufacturing, wildlife, ecosystems. We're all interconnected. Water is one way to look at that, and we have a lot of stuff to provide on that. People are familiar with the carbon footprint, but we're here to let teachers know about the water footprint and all the science behind it. This has been a growing field over the past 20 years, and now people are starting to understand it. And also, these are, for instance, the lesson plans are standards aligned, NGSS aligned, Common Core, the Texas standards, others. So, we really try to ground all of this in STEM education and make sure that people, have something to really draw on, and they're not outside of whatever school system they're in. We want this to be useful and applicable to them, and something that they can actually use in the classroom or out of the classroom, formal or non-formal.
So I can definitely tell you guys are extremely passionate about this.
Oh yes, very much so.
But the question is, where did it come from? Like, why are you passionate about this? What sparked your interest in water conservation?
Well, for me, I've been working on water. I got my first degree in geology, and I worked in the oil and gas industry for about 5 minutes and said no. And I switched to a master's in environmental science and engineering, and it was all about water from the beginning. And I just have always really been concerned about what's happening to our water. And this was a really interconnected place to land. It's, I mean, even I, who worked in water and wastewater treatment coming into this organization, didn't understand it until I started working on it. And then the light bulb went on. And, you know, we were just talking about this. We did a presentation at AGU earlier in the week, and we were talking about this is building awareness about this is a way of building resilience against climate. Because what is that saying, Kai? If climate is a shark, water is the teeth.
Yeah.
And I mean, look at all the natural disasters. Most of them deal with water or lack of water. And so I'm just really concerned about the biodiversity of our planet and the lack of environmental flows and what we're doing to our world, especially through the lens of water. Kai, do you want to?
So I came at it from a different perspective. I when I went back to school to get my master's, I was working at a forestry organization. I was really interested in silviculture, and I was doing conferences and stuff like that, registering people and putting them together, and meeting lots of interesting people. And this one Forest Service guy said, I was talking to him, and I said, you know, I was thinking about doing forestry, and he said, well, it sounds like you're interested in the social science side of things. So that really stuck with me because I felt like that too. But I wanted to blend those two, the social science and the natural sciences, environmental sciences. So I actually went back to school for sociology, and always with a strong environmental bent to it. So I would kind of pair those together. And one of the things that really was interesting to me was how water connected all this stuff. You know, really, and it almost didn't matter whether, you know, civilizations are built on water, essentially, on or near water, right? And then that's how, to a large extent, travel was done, you know, for centuries, you know, eons. So that was always really interesting to me, and the more I learned about it, the more interested I got. And so I think I had that really amazing moment where I just realized that this water is kind of like the thing that binds everyone together. It's how we survive. You know, it's how the blue planet, you know, really functions and makes things happen. But a lot of times it's not something that people think about. We take it for granted. And so yeah, it was interesting when I came to Grace, because Rob and I have been here for a while now. So, you know, things have changed over time, and we've really, when it comes to water footprinting, which at that time especially was really a young discipline, we've really grown with it, and as the discipline has grown, and it's really interesting to see how it's in scientific journals, and there are, you know, conferences about it, and it really is just, you know, if teachers want to be part of that, if STEM teachers want to be part of that, this is a great way to start to understand these systems, whether it's the hydrological system and how it connects to food systems or energy systems, what have you. So water footprinting and water in general is really like a great place to get that big picture view.
All right, so final question. You can walk into an elevator and there's 5 teachers there. You have 30 seconds to tell them why they should take the workshop. What is it? Kai, why don't you go first?
Okay. Do you care whether you can have, you know, the food on your plate or drink that coffee in the morning? Well, if you do care about that, then you should care about water. And that's because water is pretty much the thing that holds all these things together and makes your life possible. So if you don't realize that you're using water, it might be water down the stream, but it also could be water across the world. If you don't realize that you're using water in everything that you do and everything that you buy, then you're kind of missing the boat. And we really want to clue you in and make sure that you understand that, so all your students can understand that.
Very nice.
So kids love taking our water footprint calculator. They will rush to get their number at the end. I don't know what it's about. I think everybody likes to find a numerical judgment of themselves. But whether they understand it or not, they want to get that water footprint. And so here is a really good way of reaching them and teaching them that the world is much larger than they are, and they're a part of the big system.